So, Robert, the long-awaited tax reform plan was finally released today. And let's start with tax cuts and breaks specifically for working families. How would they benefit from this?
Yeah, Susan, we did get the House proposal. The Kevin Brady, congressman from Texas, authored that bill, 429 pages worth. I think it's very important to remember, though, that this is just the House version of it. It hasn't gone through Senate yet. We haven't had reconciliation. So we've got a ways to go yet. But according to Speaker Ryan, the House bill does provide about $1,100 back in terms of tax relief to lower middle income households. And if we stay with that, or something close to that in a final bill, that would be a nice support. Certainly would justify improved consumer confidence and be a nice break for many cash-strapped households.
Let's talk about the corporate tax. So that would go to 20%. What do you think the biggest impact would be?
Well, right now we have a very high corporate tax rate compared globally. 20% would put us toward the low side, not the lowest, but on the low side. I don't know if we'll be able to stay there or not. That's one of the elements of the whole tax package that I think that is most susceptible to renegotiation. So we'll be in that neighborhood. I could very easily see a compromise, 22, 23% maybe. So we'll have to see how that goes, but certainly it would be a break for U.S. corporations. It would allow them to be more competitive globally, and also embedded in that is the ability. It would make it easier or less disincentive, let's put it that way, to bring back profits that are held overseas, and so we bring them back to the U.S. The Trump administration has been talking about very high numbers measured in trillions. I don't know what the actual number is going to be. No one does. But let's assume some of that comes back, and it gets paid out in dividends. It gets paid out in terms of corporate stock buybacks. It gets paid out in terms of more business infrastructure spending. So all those things would be good for the U.S. economy.
Okay. So House Speaker Paul Ryan says this is a way to get faster economic growth. So do you think this plan overall can get us there?
In two ways, yes, I do. One is from the direct tax benefit, that $1,100, if it does go out to households, the relief on the corporate side, the encouragement for more business investment. The other way is indirect, simply boosting both consumer and business confidence. Those numbers have been very high since the election. In some measures, they've started to tail off a little bit, and maybe this resets those expectations at a high level, and people and businesses start to get some confidence that, yes, this expansion, which is already over 100 months now, really can go into extra innings. We'll get a few more years out of it, and we don't have to be so cautious at this point, this fairly lengthy stage of the business cycle.
Robert, let's move on to the announcement of the new Fed chair, which you predicted with 100% accuracy, by the way. Last week we talked, and you mentioned Jerome Powell, who goes by Jay. So what does he bring to the job? His background is very different from the current Fed chair.
Yes. He's a capital markets guy. He's not the traditional PhD in macroeconomics. That's fine. I mean, he has obviously been in the Fed for a while. He's been on the board of governors, serving under Janet Yellen. He knows how things work. And he has at his disposal the hundreds of staff economists at the Central Fed in Washington, D.C., the thousands within the overall Fed system. So he's going to have a lot of support from a lot of economists, giving him advice. And I think he's, in my view, he represents the continuity candidate. He doesn't represent necessarily radical change from the Yellen Fed. So I think this is a good, a solid appointment by the Trump administration, and one that financial markets will very easily accept.
Okay. Tomorrow you're going to have a big report out about jobs, and you'll have your take on that.
Yeah, we do expect to see a bounce back. We'll recall that in September we lost 33,000 jobs. A lot of that, most of that was hurricane related. The ADP employment report, which came out on Wednesday, did bounce back, and we expect to see a similar bounce back for the official Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers, which come out on Friday morning. Nice to see that. Maybe we'll get something on the order of 250,000 jobs, and then sort of smooth sailing after that is what I expect.
All righty. If you'd like to subscribe to Robert's reports, just go to comerica.com/economics. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Susan.